Hello, I'm Li Hao. Let's talk a bit more in detail about styling in Svelte components. So over here on my screen, we seen what we have left over from the last video, where we created a H1, a paragraph, a div, and a link, right? And we style it using CSS within a style tag. And now I have another component called components.svelte. And I'm going to import this component into my app.svelte, right? So bear with me if you are not familiar with this, because we're going to talk a bit about them more in detail later. But as you can see, how I import is I'm going to import components from the file, and then I can drop my component over here, right, like this. So my first component, hello world, and link to my YouTube, is from app.svelte, and another component by world and link to my Twitter is within another component. So what I'm going to share today is a few things. First, the style that you write within your component is going to be scoped, meaning all the styles that you write will only apply to all the elements within this component. See, take a look at this. I have the same heading 1, paragraph, and div and anchor tag in another component. But if I write the styles over here, it's only going to apply to the H1 in my component. Only my first component is being colored in purple. And only the paragraph within this component is going to be font size 44 pixels. See? The other paragraph in another component is much smaller. So first thing, the style is being scoped within your component, meaning any elements, it will only apply to all the elements within this file that you look at right now. So it means that actually Svelte will read through all the selectors and figure out what element that it will apply to, and then does some Svelte magics over there. So this gives us a few advantages. First is that, of course, you are more confident with the styles that you're writing right now, because you will make sure that it will only apply to the components over here, to the elements over here. Of course, not just limits to tag. If you can have a class like this, class, I'm gonna say links, and I can style it over here as well. So links will have let's see, text align right. So you'll right align, and even if you have another class over here, it will not right align, right? So it's not just elements. You can have class selectors. The same, it will only apply to all the elements that's written within this file component. So you are confident enough that if you change something, it will only apply to all the elements within a component. So you don't have to worry about messing up other components. 2, because Svelte knows what elements it will apply to, it also means that if you write something like, for example, if I already remove this, I don't have any elements that has a class links, actually Svelte will know that you have a selector that is not applied to any elements within this file. So there is a warning, and also so that you know that you have to remove them because it's not applied to any elements anymore. What's good about it is also that during a compilation, Svelte actually removes it. So if you go to look at the CSS output, text align right is no longer here. So while we are looking at this CSS output, I do have to point out that right now, if you look at, I want to point out actually how this works. So Svelte will actually find out all the elements that will be targeted, and then add a special class to the elements that will be that will be targeted by all the class, and then it will use that class to increase the specificity of your selector. Of course, your selector will be more specific right now, but it will make sure that they will increase the specificity the same way for all the selectors, so that if you have selectors over here, make sure that the specificity, the relative specificity among these selectors is still the same, right? So that it does not just add like a class over here and then make this slightly higher specificity than the links. You will not do that. Like, it will make sure that relative specificity is still maintained. So if I come over here and inspect the elements, you will see that because I'm targeting H1 and P over here, if you take a look, only H1 and P will have that special class applied. Let me zoom. Hopefully it's not too small. All right, so let's me zoom and let's scroll. So only the H1 and the P tag will get that special class applied, but the div and anchor tag, because you are not, you don't have any selectors that applying to this element, so that so the special class will not be added to these two elements. Right? So Svelte will do what is the most optimized thing. It will not just apply blindly to all the elements. So look again at the CSS output. You have H1 and P being increased with this class, special class. Right? So just let me demonstrate the case where I'm saying that if I have class over here, say links, you'll make sure that if you come over here, links.svelte and p.svelte, so relative specificity is still the same. Is still one up in the class specificity. Yep. So this is scope styling, and this is not just applied to selectors. It also applies to keyframes, animation frames. So if I come over here and say keyframes, I'm gonna write a zoom animation. So bear with me. Let me type that out. Transform scale 3, and maybe 50% time I'm gonna transform scale 0.5. Okay, I'm gonna apply this zoom animation for my header. Come over here, animation, and then I will say zoom 5 seconds infinite. So you see that I'm applying an animation to this H1 for 5 seconds with this zoom. And my point is, this zoom is being scoped to this component only. Meaning, if I come over here, I'm going to copy this, and I want to apply to my H1 as well. Sorry, I should write style H1 animation style. You'll see that zoom is not applied to this element, right? Or rather, you applied the zoom animation to these elements, but zoom is not defined because this keyframes that you write is only limited, available to your elements over here. It will not pollute any other zoom animations out there. So look again at the CSS output. You will see that animation, although it's modified, but you can still vaguely figure out that this keyframe name has been changed. You will add svelte-zoom special, hopefully it will be unique animation name, and then you also apply that to your animation. So this animation that you write over here is scoped within your component. So you may ask me like, yeah, that's great, but what if I want my styles, I want my selectors to be not just applied to the components over here. I want it to apply to all the H1s out there as well. Yes, so if you want to do this and you are very sure that you are going to do this, we have a backdoor hatch that you can work around, right? This is like an escape door to use if you are sure enough that you want these selectors to be available globally. And how you would do it is you will apply you will add a pseudo selector called global and wrap it with your h1. So immediately, if you take a look at, let's come over here and inspect first. Immediately you can see that your let me expand. Your h1, immediately you can see your h1 no longer has that special class because it's not going to target this h1 only, right? So it does not need to have that special class anymore. And if you come over to look at the CSS output, h1 is no longer having that special class. So this h1 will have effect to all the h1s out there, right? So if you look at here, you can see immediately this component is also a purple color as well, right? So if I come over here for p tag global, you see that by wall, by wall will be 44 pixels as well. So this selector will become a global selector as well. And lastly, you will ask me, how about my animation frames? I want to have a zoom over here. If I want to use zoom out elsewhere, say I want to come over here and say H1 and P to apply the zoom animation. How do I make this animation keyframe to be globally available? Well, you would have to prefix it with a global dash. So you have to prefix your animation name with this prefix, and there you go. It will be available globally, right? So if you take a look at the CSS output again, your keyframes will be named zoom, and it will available everywhere. So there you have it. You can CSS styles in Svelte is scoped to your components, to all the elements within your components only. And if you want to escape from this, there's an escape door for you, which is to use a global pseudo selector. Pseudo selector, or you can use a global dash for your keyframe to make it globally available. So that's it. Hope you learned something. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. And if you have anything to ask, comments down below. And as always, subscribe to my channel so you get notified when the next one is out. So see ya. Bye bye.